Welcome back to another episode of Fit Pet Boston Talks. My name is Leah Lodato, and this podcast interviews local Boston, Massachusetts area dog handling professionals, and we sit down and chit-chat about our lives, our dogs, and our careers. Today, I interviewed once again my wife, Lori Lodato, and we just sat down and talked about different dog breeds and whether or not they would be suitable for first-time dog owners. So I wanted to take a minute to just talk about one demographic that we didn't actually get to talk about on the podcast, but I know that Lori had a few things to say, so I just wanted to talk quickly about rescue dogs and whether or not dogs that are in the rescue system are a good fit for a first-time dog owner. And I think overwhelmingly the answer to that question is going to be yes, and it depends on the dog. But in general, we work with a ton of folks that are first-time dog owners that rescue dogs successfully. It can be difficult because there's just so much information that we don't know going into a rescue situation. And there were a couple of tips that Laurie wanted me to relay to you guys, so I want to talk about those now. So she prefers puppies or younger dogs up to 3 months old. And typically we think of puppies as being any dog that's under 1 year old. But I think anybody that works with dogs regularly will tell you that the younger that you can get the dog, the more of an impression you can have on the dog, right? So we frequently talk about the socialization age, and we talk about the socialization window closing at around 16 weeks of age. So that means that socializing your dog needs to happen before the dog turns 4 months old. And a lot of times dogs that are in the rescue system are going to be just at that 4 months or maybe even a little bit beyond and still be considered puppies. And although they're a young dog, they're not quite young enough for us to be considered puppies. And it doesn't mean that they would make a bad fit. It just means that they're going to have just different stuff going on. So we prefer younger dogs or puppies. Older dogs can be great, but try fostering the dog first. That will give you an idea of whether or not the dog would be a good fit for your household. Talk as much as possible about the dog with the folks that rescued the dog, right? So if there's any information that that organization can give to you, good with cats, not good with kids, crate trained, not crate trained, if they have any medical issues, try to get as much information as possible and try as hard as you can not to full on make that adoption commitment with a dog that is sight unseen. Okay, so a lot of rescues will post photos and bios of dogs and then allow the dog to be transported up to where we live, which is Massachusetts, and you adopt the dog sight unseen, which can work out great in a lot of cases. We don't recommend this unless you can really get some good, solid video of what that dog is like. And in a lot of cases, what a rescue will do is say, you can rescue this dog. If you need, for whatever reason, to return the dog, the rescue will, no questions asked, take the dog back. And while this is a great option, and it's almost a way, I think, for some people to say, okay, I don't have to make this commitment, it's a lot harder to give a dog back that you've been hanging out with and working with, even if the dog is not a good fit. So it's really, really awesome to be able to make a good choice from the get-go and meet the dog. And one of the things that Laurie said was you want the dog to walk right up to you, wagging its tail, right? So a little bit of hesitation is okay. A little bit of nervousness is okay. But oftentimes it is going to pull on your heartstrings to see that dog that is kind of in the corner away from the other dogs, and you feel bad for that dog and adopt the dog because of the feelings that you feel. And sometimes that might not be the best choice, right? Because we want a dog that's social, that comes right up to us, and that is willing to work for and with us. And sometimes the dog that is in the corner, shy, nervous, doesn't really want to have anything to do with you, might be a difficult dog to train. With that said, though, it can take up to 3 months for a dog to decompress after they come out of a rescue organization, right? So adopting a dog is awesome. It's really important for you to give that dog time after the adoption to decompress. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be training. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't have structure. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't set goals, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't follow through. It just means that you're going to have to observe and react to what's going on with that dog and really hold back your assumptions until the dog has time to get settled in your home. Okay, so that's what we wanted to talk about with regard to rescue dogs. And there is a really good chance that we will continue that conversation sometime down the road because it's such a great conversation. If you're interested in learning more about rescue dogs and how to adopt rescue dogs that would be a good fit for your home, I would highly suggest checking out Sue Sternberg. She has pretty much dedicated her life to studying dogs in the rescue system and trying to evaluate whether or not they would be a good fit for the home. So if you're interested in working with rescues, definitely get to know the rescues that are in your area on a personal basis. It's so easy to do, guys. Everybody's on social media these days. Also, do some research. Check out Sue Sternberg. Talk to local trainers in your area. It is absolutely my favorite client to work with that prepares before the dog even comes. I love getting phone calls. The most recent class series I've done with a customer, the woman called me a few weeks before the dog even arrived. First-time dog owner, rescuing a dog, was able to set up the home, was able to give her some advice, and they were really able to hit the ground running once the dog was adopted into their household. So I love working with folks that are prepared. It makes my job 10 times easier because they're ready. All right, so that we might pick up the topic later, but I just wanted to address that really quickly because we didn't get a chance to talk about it on the podcast. Just some housekeeping stuff, guys. Thank you so much, those of you that have funded the podcast on Patreon. This month, I am going to be donating June's proceeds to FoodLink MA, which is a food service that donates food in Arlington. And if you donate not donate, but you fund the podcast, through Patreon, the funding will be going to that organization in the month of June. Also, the podcast is turning 1 year this next month. So the beginning of July was when I started out on this project. And I have to say, it's been super fun. A little side thing that I've been doing. I've met so many awesome people and I am super excited. I have another interview scheduled this coming weekend and it should be super exciting and dropping next week. So again, thank you for listening. I really hope that you enjoy the conversation that Laurie and I had regarding first-time dog owners and what dogs would be great fits for a first-time dog owner.
Go.
Australian Shepherd. Is an Australian Shepherd a good fit for a first-time dog owner puppy?
No.
Okay. Why?
I think it'd be great for somebody who wants to do agility with a dog or is extremely active. And if the person they're just an extremely active dog. They're very smart, high energy expenditure, more than the average family would participate in. I feel like you need to say the family. If the family has kids, no. If it's a single couple starting out, they just got a house or they didn't, and they lived together and it's before they got married and right before they got engaged, sure, because the dog will be their entire life. If you have kids, you're running them off to practice and stuff, whenever the pandemic ends.
So what are some of the characteristics of the breed that would make it difficult for somebody who's never had a dog before to raise the dog up from a pup?
Besides the normal puppy things like peeing everywhere, if you're not creating it, it's going to start hurting the kids and like nipping them in the butt.
Why?
Because they're a herding breed.
Yeah, but what does that mean?
What do you mean? What does it mean?
Like they herd animals and they will herd anything.
Yeah, they'll herd your kids. They'll get bored. Start herding everything in the house and they're going to have resource guarding issues. It's a lot.
It is a lot. It was a funny...
Why can't we just get a good old lab?
All right, so we'll talk about labs.
Okay.
Labs, are they a good breed for a first-time dog owner?
I think so.
And why is that?
I think they're just more a run-of-the-mill, a good standard family dog. I think once you get past the mouthing and nipping, you're going to be okay.
Right, because as far
I prefer like an old English lab.
Okay.
I don't prefer like families say, oh, I got it from a gun dog breeder and we live in the city and the dog's going to go for three walks a day.
Right. Yeah, because gun dogs can
When
walk.
we're on walks, he just looks at all the birds and he tries to get all the animals and I don't know why. I'm like, I don't know why either. Just get the good old English, a little chubby.
Yeah, so the English labs are a little bit more stout, a little wider, a little lower to the ground, a little slower.
Like me.
Like who? Like you?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Short, stout, broad.
I guess if we were to compare you and I.
I'm a lab in Old English.
Okay, what am I?
You're the field lab.
That's right. I'm the field lab.
Yeah.
I'm the field lab. Yes, we work with both breeds
Sturdy.
of lab
Sturdy
type.
is how they describe me.
I like labs too for a first time dog owner because they oftentimes, as puppies, will have. What do you mean? No, the labs aren't
kidding.
mentally sturdy?
No, me.
Oh, stop it! Will you please? Degrading yourself.
Sorry. I'm not. Everyone knows I'm stable.
Okay, so a lab, what I love about a lab is oftentimes as a puppy, they will start retrieving immediately, which is really cool because most people, that's what they associate to play with their dogs. When you think about, oh, we're going to go play at the field, you think about playing fetch. So I think that that's one of the things that if the dog is a natural retriever and you can start retrieving as a puppy, and you can start having a little bit of off-leash time as a puppy because they're so into retrieving and you're kind of not worried about them running away from you. It kind of almost builds in a off-leash reliability that the owner oftentimes will like let their guard down. And then as the dog gets older, they just kind of like build the dog into their life because they can open the door and the dog just runs out and runs right to the field because they want to play ball so bad and they're just waiting for you to throw the ball from them, and then you can take your dog to and from the field without ever needing to put a leash on the dog, and you kind of just did it and there was no training, quote unquote, happening there. And I've seen that happen a lot. I mean, even Sammy, the dog
I see it
downstairs.
happen more with labs than other breeds. That's why.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people don't call me frantic about resource guarding issues or aggression issues. Very little.
Yeah.
1 out of 10 maybe.
Yep.
With people aggression. But
Yeah.
that's it. It's so rare. Usually it's not a lab when I get oh my God, this is an emergency phone call. So I think that's why they pop into my head first as a family dog.
So comparatively, let's compare a Labradoodle. Is a Labradoodle a good option for a first-time dog owner?
I think so. I mean, there's a lot of them right now. I prefer the regular standard doodle. I don't prefer the smaller versions of them. I just like the regular doodle. Because there's different versions. And then there's the Australian Doodle, and I think that they are all the ones that I've met, and I don't even know how many, they are a little calmer. They're actually very calm. And they all definitely have such a loyalty to their owners. I can't say that I've seen a ton of Australian Doodles. No, it wasn't Australian Doodles. What was it? What did I just say?
Yeah, you're talking about Australian Doodles.
Yeah, like Oscar.
Yeah, he's Australian.
I love Oscar. And Joey are the first two dogs that come to mind, but they love their owners. They love to go for walks. They're pretty brainless as far as training goes. I've seen really nice temperaments on them. They're definitely more of a people dog than a dog's dog from my experience too.
As far as money goes, though, comparing the Doodle to the Lab. So let's say you have two people and one might be a little bit more money conscious. I'm thinking just in terms of like grooming and allergies for the dogs that you just mentioned.
They're going to have a lot of money.
That are doodles.
Every dog has allergies now. You can't just blame a doodle. Every dog's a mess.
Yep.
Every dog's allergic to everything now. It never used to be like that.
Yep. And grooming is another issue. If you have
to groom them every 4 weeks or you're going to have a gross dog.
Yep. So I think that Doodles...
I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah, I think Doodles are a great first-time dog owner. I would say that some of the characteristics of a Doodle that I like tend to be more characteristics of a Poodle. Behaviorally, not so much the look of them, because I'm not a connoisseur of the look of a poodle versus a doodle and whatnot. But that's might be a good third breed to talk about. So poodles. Do you think poodles are a good fit for a first-time dog owner?
Yep. I do. I think they're great. Yep. Again, I feel like they're one-person dogs. They love their humans. I don't see a lot of dog interaction with them. In the beginning, maybe, but I love poodles. I like their personality. I don't want to own one myself because I just like the look of, I like Rottweilers, so I like a big chunky head. I like a big beefy dog. So I'm drawn to more of those, like the Old English Lab and, the Rotts. I just like a big chunky dog, but I think poodles are just brilliant. I think they're brilliant. And they love their kids and they love their families.
Can you backtrack slightly? About a minute ago, you said not with other dogs. Does that mean that you have seen poodles not be able to tolerate dog play?
No, not reactive towards other dogs. Just they don't really care about them.
Right.
So they're like, I want my dog to play with other dogs. And I just don't see a lot of poodles. If they're raised with the dog, yes, that's their little pack. But I don't see them really interacting with a ton of dogs.
Right. Right.
Like they don't need it.
The
Some
ones
dogs,
that come here,
like,
they just like walk around and try to avoid.
They want to go for walks and they want to play ball. And that's with the human. It's not with the other dogs. But I do think they're smart. And I love Portuguese water dogs. I think that's a good family dog to have too.
Yep.
Ooh, we made a list.
Okay, so Portuguese water dogs, a good
Labs,
fit
poodles,
for a family.
Portuguese water dogs. The doodles are okay. Like I said, I like the larger versions and not the minis.
All right, let's talk about Rottweilers since you brought up that breed. So we own a Rottweiler. Do you think it's a good dog for a first-time dog owner, and why?
No, I don't. Because there has to be such a level of stubbornness in the owner. Like you have to get past these hurdles. Every dog's different, but I think a Rottweiler is really stubborn. And I think that you have to match it and never give up. You can't have somebody who's not super committed to training every day. You can't just leave a Rottweiler to walk around the house and decide how it's going to run its day. So, and if somebody wants a Rottweiler because they consider it a status symbol or their main reason is to protect the family, I don't think that they should get them for that. I think they should get a Rottweiler because they want a great friend. They like the look of the dog, but you really have to train a Rottweiler constantly. You can't just give up like at 6 months and be like, oh yeah, he's trained. Everything's going great. Every time you take him out on a leash, you should be aware of your dog.
Right.
I just don't think people have that much drive to train. It is a rare occurrence, but I do like seeing like single couples before they get their kids. Like I like to see them with Rottweilers. But everybody at one point or another, I've just had really disappointing experiences, except for one recently where an owner is working really hard with this dog, and I'm really proud of him. But then again, there was a time where he got lax and he knew it, and then we had to backtrack a lot before we could fix it.
Right.
It's just that everybody gets so comfortable. And a part of a Rottweiler is a really sweet, like lay on your back, showing his stomach. So sometimes when you see that sweetness, you're able to overlook other things. And then they start to like run the house.
Oh, if you weren't here, Buddha would run all over me.
Yes.
He's very
I do
pushy
think so.
with me because affection, that's one of the things with him. He's just pushy with affection. He pushes your hand. He pushes the phone out of your way. He'll push you with his body. And
he does. He pushes people around.
And I give in. He literally pushes people around. And I also don't have an obedience foundation with him like Lori. Like he comes when I call him, like, and all that. Don't get me wrong. But
you can bring him to the woods off leash and stuff.
I can do stuff with him, but just like experimentally, we traded dogs in a rally class a couple of weeks ago. And he was like, wouldn't move for me. Would not move. It was literally like he did not even know me, and I just kidnapped him from home. It was horrible. And I was just like, okay. So I've been making a little bit more of an effort to play with him because that's one of the things that we do bond with. But even in play, like I give up a lot. Like if he pushes me, I like back up, I always just let him kind of push me around. So I know that if it were just me and him, I would have to change everything about the way that I interact with him to build up a little bit more of the respect that he has for you, because you ask him to do something once and he does it.
He is my buddy, though.
Oh, yeah.
I love working with him. I was so bummed we couldn't go to our own obedience classes. And then I remember it was a Saturday. It was the first class I was going to go to because they were started up again. And I was like, I thought, no, I have to do this because you just have to. There was... I really feel like you need to continually keep the dog fresh, and it's really nice in that instance to be around a lot of other dogs, because one thing that bothers me with Buddha is that he is sometimes reactive to other dogs on the road, and we can get past them, and to somebody else they would think, oh, what a well-behaved dog, but in my head I'm like, this isn't as good as I want it. This isn't as perfect as Lori perfect. It's not as perfect as I want it. So it gives me an opportunity to work the behavior. So...
You ready for another breed?
No, but I like Rottweilers with single couples. Single couples.
Yeah.
Or the one guy before he meets the wife, who preferably does not have a dog herself. Just because.
Yeah. All right. What about beagles? Beagles would be a good dog for a first-time dog owner, yes or no?
If the first-time dog owner wants to hunt every day with his beagle and he wants to go to classes, yes. Or if you live in New Hampshire. Next.
All right. Nothing to say about beagles.
I think they're cute. I've met a lot of really cute beagles. I think that they should be allowed to be beagles.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the barking is another thing.
Like, I don't think a beagle needs to live in an apartment.
Yeah, because the barking, they howl. So it's like if you live in an apartment and you are going to be gone for work all day and you're going to have a dog walker come and that dog might be barking all day while you're gone.
Might be barking.
Yep. All right. What about... That ran through the list in my head, but I want to talk about rescues last. But I did want to talk about some of the what about a German Shepherd? So we're not going to go all the way Belgian Malinois yet, but
I like Shepherds.
Shepherds for a first-time dog owner.
Yes, as long as the person has knows that it will put in the training time. I could be wrong. I took care of a lot of shepherds in the beginning. I trained a lot of shepherds in the beginning of my career, and I think in some aspects they're easier to train than a Rottweiler. So I think, yes. I think shepherds make really nice family dogs. I really do.
All right, what about
First time? Oh, God.
Let's talk about Malinois for 2 seconds.
No. If you're in the Army or the Marines, you should get a Malinois.
Yes, folks, listen to what we are saying.
If your whole entire life can be centered around your dog,
yes,
then get a Malinois.
I said that to somebody on the phone recently. I was talking to a customer and they didn't bring it up, but I was basically trying to make the comparison of, how life-changing it can be to get a dog. And if I had a Malinois, my lifestyle would change. Like, I have hobbies. I do music. I hang out with dogs. I do podcast productions. Like, I like to exercise.
Your whole life would be the dog.
If I got a Malinois, literally those hobbies, I would be completely 100% dog focused. Now, as a dog trainer, there is nothing wrong with that because, of course, it's going to make you a better dog trainer ultimately. But for me personally, doing things like being a well-rounded person adds to the authenticity of the service that I'm providing as a dog handling professional. And I feel like kind of having just a couple of minutes of every day be not about dogs goes a long way for me and helps me to think outside the box when it comes to working with the dogs. And obviously I spend a bunch of time working with dogs, but if I got a Malinois, I wouldn't have time to do any of the other things.
No,
that
nothing.
I
Your whole
enjoy
life
doing.
is the dog.
Even like
That's it.
going somewhere to, until the dog's older. I mean, it takes such a long time to really build up the foundation, and they're just a working breed. And I think that
they need lots and lots of activity.
Yeah, lots of activity and structure, and you can't. The other thing about having a dog like that is like, there's a very short list of people that are going to be able to take care of that dog if you go on vacation or go away for the weekend to a seminar or something like that.
You just bring the dog with you.
Right. Yeah, totally. So again, your whole life is going to center around the dog, which we're guilty of because we never go anywhere without our dogs really either. But
that's fine. I love them.
Yeah, we like to hang out. They're part of our family. So yeah, Malinois, not a good idea for a first-time dog owner, especially since one of the things about owning a softer dog is that you can make mistakes. Like Laurie said at the beginning of this conversation, owner gets a puppy's kind of peeing all over the house, chewing things, chewing the carpet, chewing the molding, and then they say, oh, we really need to get training. They call us up. You can afford to make those kind of mistakes on different breeds. And then with other breeds, you can't.
Because everything's amplified by 1,000 if it's a Malinois, I feel like.
Great way to put it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's 100 times more. It's not that shepherds and Rots don't do that either. It's just such the high drive of that animal.
Yeah, if you watch Malinois puppies, all they do is play with their mouths all the time, all day long.
I'll never forget my buddy Jose and his girlfriend at the time. They are pro bodybuilders, and I was like, "Oh, what dog are you getting?" She goes, "We're getting a Newfie." His name was Chewy. He's a great dog. He's awesome. So his name's Chewy, and he's still around. He's the best guy. And I said, "But you guys are such active people." And he said, "Exactly. When I come home, I want to sleep." So they would work out all the time and exercise all the time. And of course, they brought Chewy for all of his walks, and they, bring him to the pond and walk him all the time. But they also want a dog who has a shutoff switch. And they were smart enough to know that. They're like, yeah, I want a dog with a shutoff switch. And then they got their Newfie. I love Newfies.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about Newfies.
I think they're a good time.
I think they're a great dog for a first-time dog owner. I think that they need to get groomed more than you would expect.
Hire someone to do it.
Yeah, so Newfies are going to be the type of dog that just has a really long coat, a really long fur, and they need a little bit of trimming, but a ton of brushing, and the bathing needs to be regular as well.
And the bigger the dog, the higher the price tag on everything. Heartworm, flea and tick medications. Your 10-pound dog might get away with an antibiotic that only cost you $50. And if you have a Newfie, that same antibiotic could be $300. So just know that your vet bills are going to be higher the larger dog that you get.
Right. Yeah, totally. And
I feel
also
like you really need
food,
a lot of money these days for dogs.
The food is going to set you back too.
Yeah,
because
they eat a ton.
Yeah, they eat a ton. And in some cases, if you have a dog that has an allergy or needs to be on a special diet.
Which they all do.
Right.
I don't know what's going on. I swear to
Ruben
God.
Ruben has an iron stomach, so I'm very knocking on wood.
Yeah, but he has eyes that he needs eye drops for every month. There's always something.
I know. The money issue is definitely something to consider.
All these health problems arise. You have to put aside the yearly, like the first year is usually the most expensive, whether it's a rescue or a puppy. And then you need an emergency fund on top of that.
All right, let's also talk about a breed that...
Are we running out of time?
No, not at all. I was curious.
I didn't know what you're doing.
Breed that we've handled a little bit over the past couple of years, a Wheaten Terrier.
A Wheaten?
A Wheaten. A white Wheaten.
Wheaten.
Yes.
I like Wheatens. I think they're a tough and stubborn dog, so you have to be a tough and stubborn owner for a Wheaten.
So first-time dog owner or no?
I'd say no.
I'd say no, too.
Yeah, I'm voting no.
I'm voting no on and the Wheaten is going to be a... it's going to be an attractive choice, I think, for people that like doodles.
They're a nice size.
They're a great size. The coat is, similar to a doodle's coat, a lot finer, more like a Portuguese water dog, but not as coarse. But anyway, that's besides the point. But the looks are going to be very attractive.
It's not like a Portuguese water dog.
The coat, I feel like it feels like it.
No.
You think it's finer, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. You disagree. It's
like
cool.
Farrah Fawcett hair.
Good one.
That's old.
But Wheaten Terrier, one of the cool things that you said not too long ago was you have to be just as strict on a Wheaten Terrier as a Rottweiler because they have a similar stubborn streak to them.
I think they have a stubborn streak. I've only met one, and it was most recently. She's sweet as pie. I was waiting for her to kill the family at one point, but nothing. She's still sweet as pie.
All right, talking about sweet as pie, what about the golden retriever?
I like a good old golden.
I think it depends on the breeder, obviously, that you get the dog from. Like Pat's dogs, people say it would be bad for a first-time dog owner.
That is very her dogs are
very busy.
Superb.
Yep. But the good old golden retriever.
Yep.
I think they're great. Again, the grooming for a golden, you're going to be grooming a little bit more frequently with a little bit more trimming, making sure that they're healthy. And I also find that with the larger dogs or the longer haired dogs, sometimes it's harder to see if they have something going on because there's hair in the way. You're really good at checking out dogs and feeling for stuff.
I pick apart dogs all the time. That's how I learned to find every little lump, bump, and everything else. I think it's important to get your dog groomed. I was on some Facebook page, and somebody goes, "Oh, maybe I wash my dog once a year," and it was a Rottweiler, and I'm like, "Really, once a year? So nasty." I can't even fathom that because the dog's all over my house. It's disgusting. And how are you to find things? You really do find things in a dog when you're washing them, blow drying the coat out. You need to clean their coat, cut their nails, find like little cuts and nicks that you normally wouldn't see. How many times have you brought your dog to a groomer and they pointed something out that you couldn't see because it's underneath all that coat?
Right.
So that's another reason why I prefer a Rottweiler, because it's a short coat. And you can just tell them and be done.
All right. What about bulldogs? Bulldogs, good breed for a first-time dog owner, yes or no? Gonna go
Sure.
American bulldog?
I think it's a first time American bulldog.
Yeah. All right. Well,
yeah.
Okay. Old English and American bulldog.
Fine. I'll say yes.
Okay.
You can have it. And you're gonna have. And then usually I get called for dog reactivity. Is what I get called for them. Yes. It's usually dog reactivity. And then people will say, well, when I walk them, it happens, so I don't walk them. People tend to avoid, if the dog's doing something wrong, people tend to avoid it. Oh, he's scared of cars, so we don't go on the busy road. And I'm like, well, can you go on a semi-busy road and then work your way to a busy road? But you keep accommodating the dog, and before you know it, you're accommodating everything.
Yeah, and I think because those dogs...
He doesn't like his nails cut, so I don't do it.
Right. They also have the tendency to be couch potatoes, like Old English Bulldog. Exercise, you don't have to do very much of it.
No.
So it's not going to take much for them to be like totally cool in your house. And I think for some folks...
You have to socialize them.
Yeah, for some folks, like, well, they just have this one thing.
And you have to have
hate
money.
All other dogs.
Because you got to go to the vet. You have to have money and...
Oh, yeah.
Because, breathing and who else knows what's going to come down the line.
Yep.
Mostly with breathing. Oh, yeah, the skin wrinkles, you got to clean those out.
Eyes.
Eye boogers.
Mm-hmm. Along the same lines with the kind of the bully breed, I guess you could consider, how about Staffordshire Terriers? So we won't say pit bulls, but Staffies.
I like them.
First time dog owner?
It depends, I guess.
Yeah. Because they can be pretty pushy too.
I think every dog is pushy. I think that if you're willing to put in... I think dogs are more training than anyone thinks. So I think that sometimes a little staffy is... They're high energy, so make sure that you can exercise, run them, and things like that.
Yeah, and what about so I want to talk about rescues last. So I know that sometimes in a bio for a dog that's adoptable, they will write not suitable for a first-time dog owner, or on the contrary, they might write sweet as pie, great with kids, great with cats, great with other dogs, etc. And I kind of wanted to talk about ego a little bit, because it really wasn't long ago that I thought to myself upon seeing a message like that, like, please, I could handle it. I'm a first-time dog owner, but how hard is it really? And I also think that because dogs in some cases can be looked at as such a status symbol, that folks will, acquire the dog because they want it and there's no other reason. There's not a thought about training or, the advice or whatever, even if they know that it's not a good idea to get this specific breed, but they want it anyway. Because it wasn't too long ago that I thought that I could pretty much handle anything. And then I very quickly learned that that's just not the case. So I guess, do you have any advice for people that see that on a sign and just kind of jabs on the heartstrings? They're like, oh, come on, though. It's not going to really be that bad if we, adopt this dog or get this puppy that the rescue or the breeder says isn't suitable for a first-time dog owner. Would you have any?
I think that those people have been doing it a lot longer than that first-time dog owner. If they say it's not for a first-time dog owner, then you should listen to that.
From my own perspective, it's just like I learned so much about training and training puppies specifically, and just crate training and stuff like that. And some of the conversations that I have with new dog owners, and the crate is like optional. And I think for some breeds, like, yeah, the crate can be optional eventually, but for other breeds, it's like the crate's not an optional training tool. Like, you have to crate train a Belgian Malinois. Like,
yeah,
if you're not a person that understands the value of a crate and how to implement it properly into your training schedule.
I tell people I won't train your dog if you don't use a crate.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, for me, I didn't know that that was a thing that you had to do with puppies. It wasn't until I worked with a bunch of puppies that I realized, like, oh my gosh, if I didn't have these crates, like...
Not an exercise pen, a crate.
Yeah, a crate, a wired crate.
Not a room or a bathroom. I won't do it. I won't train your dog. It's stupid.
Yeah. So I think that that's an important point that I was just thinking as I was going through the process of brainstorming about this episode. Yeah, but just like kind of knowing where you're at and knowing to set your ego aside and say, I am a first-time dog owner. I need to be respectful of the dog and understand that, there are some breeds specifically that just wouldn't be a good fit.
Hey, I know I'm not going to get a Malinois.
Right.
Because I can't keep up with that energy.
It. Yeah, I can't handle it.
I can't keep up with that energy. I don't want it. Even when I was around them, when I first started out in my late 20s, I was like, oh man, I don't know. I like Rottweilers because they have a shutoff switch, and I just didn't see that in Malinois. I mean, they come out biting. You walk into we would pick out Malinois, and we would walk in, and the ones who were clinging to our pants, like it was almost like a vine, they would crawl up our legs and bite us and hang. And then we would pick the one that was hanging the best or like attacking the most. That's not a family dog.
Right.
That's not a family. Like, we would go in and see who's the biggest asshole in this group. Mm-hmm. And then we'd be like, that's the one. I remember training puppies, and it was training Malinois puppies. And I had to put a lot of focus into, first of all, a lot of them preferred a toy over food. And next is you have to get past the biting part because they just are constantly jumping up, biting and nipping. So I had to get through that phase before I could even go over and get my sits and downs, like to get some focus that way. And then, of course, I would use a bite toy right away because they loved it and it was a great reward. But, I mean, nobody wants a kid walking around their house and, like the Malinois jumps up and just hangs off their shirt and you're like, that's why I picked that dog.
Right.
It's going to kill this kid. That's the one.
Yeah, and I think, too, it's just really, really
know
tough.
your limitations. That's fine. I'm tired. I don't want a Malinois. Your ass doesn't want one either, unless you want to do dog sport. If you're not going to do dog sport and you're not going to go with your dog club every weekend, or if you weren't military or army or a police officer, or like I said, you're not willing to do dog sport, just don't bother.
Right. Yeah, because they need that outlet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thinking about one of the more recent clients that I've had come. They are first-time dog owners, and they adopted a little like lab mix puppy, and she's a little pit mix.
That's code for pit bull.
Mm-hmm. And she's great, really, really high drive. And I did have a really candid conversation with the gentleman. I absolutely love these people. Their heart is in it. And it's going to be really tough, but I do think that they're going to be able to rise to the occasion and make a lot of progress. And I think that it's really cool. But it was a conversation where I just had to say, this might not be the best fit for a first time dog owner. And the guy like really thought about it, I think. And it was a conscious decision, and they're committed to the training. So it's like really, really awesome to see. But this puppy just came out biting in that first class that I was doing. We just worked on play for pretty much the whole second half of the class. And I think one of the things I struggle with trying to teach people about play is kind of like the second, we tend to think about food motivation as being the primary way to train most dogs. But like you just said, some Malinois puppies don't even necessarily want to work for the food. They want to work for the toy. And if you're a first-time dog handler, like, take it from somebody who knows, it is really difficult to just like learn how to play with your dog. Like, they're a different species. Like, you have to have done it a lot in order to understand their motivations and to harness it. So I think that's kind of why I like, looking at it from my perspective, like, it would be really difficult for me to have a Malinois because I don't fully grasp that. I don't have the experience to really harness it and understand it completely. And there are some dogs that have a little bit of that in them. They might not be as full blown as a Malinois.
They just have dogs with prey drive, and so this little nugget has
a lot of drive.
She has a lot of drive, and she loves to play, and she loves to play tug. And then people think tug is a bad game. It's not, as long as you control the rules, and you have to give him that outlet to play. I had another dog. The dog was growling at the family because they were moving him or whatever. It's like it's like a whole other case study. Anyway, dogs have prey drive. This little one had a lot of activity, and if they're willing to do the work, then it will pan out. I think it'll pan out fine.
Yeah,
I think
totally.
the family will do well.
Yeah, I think so too.
And plus, they don't want to fail now. And, like, sometimes you can say, well, these are prevention things. Like, I think we should muzzle train the dog. Well, I think it's a good dog. Yeah, it's a good dog. I muzzle train every dog. You don't take it personally. Sometimes if you say, well, these are preventative measures, like we go over resource guarding a bowl, even if your dog has never showed it. We show you to just put the bowl on the ground. Dog looks at it. You drop food in the bowl. Hand means, like your hand going near the bowl means food's coming. Feed the dog from your hand. Wear a muzzle. Take a leash. Put it on your puppy whenever you're with him. And then so that you can lead him away from things without grabbing him. And sometimes a dog will be growling when a person touches them or tries to move them, or a dog will be growling over a resource that they're guarding, and I'll just give them the black and white version of what's going on, and then they say, but it's a good dog. Well, I didn't say it was a bad dog. Like, can we just not take this so personally?
Right.
It's a behavior, and we're observing it, and it's there. Mm-hmm. So why can't I talk about it?
Right.
They might get mad because I'll be like, well, you certainly help the behavior along.
Right.
I mean, in some cases, families really do help the behavior. They go to touch the bowl, the dog growls, they go away. They go to move the dog growls, they walk away. They nip the person's hand, the person plays with the toy. Oh, they nip my hand until I go get the toy.
Okay, but let me put this scenario in your mind. If that dog in your mind, whoever that example may be, was with us, would those things have ever happened?
Nope, because I wouldn't have let it happen.
Okay, people, this is the point right here that you have to listen to. So that's the difference between having a dog that needs to be with an experienced handler, because those mistakes won't happen to begin with.
Because the minute the dog shows the behavior, you have to address it.
The dog would never even have the chance, though, with us.
Well, no, because we feed him from the hand.
Yeah.
I feed him from a bowl.
And
I didn't feed Buddha from a bowl for like at least a year. I was He was a jerk anyway. So at least a year. He didn't have food drive. So, and he wouldn't listen to me. So the only thing I had was he liked toys, but I mean,
he's a bad example because he's so strange.
He's a little weird.
Just like us.
But don't take it personally, guys. Like, we're just trying to help. I'm trying to prevent all this stuff from happening.
Yeah, totally. And I think the list of dogs that are a good fit for a first-time dog owner is way longer than the list of not the ones that aren't.
Yeah, because we named a lot of working breeds.
Yeah, we named a lot.
Named working breeds that...
And some working breeds that I think would be... are good fits.
I think it's more like the...
Like for an active family, like a family that likes to mountain bike and hike, I think a Vizsla is a cool choice for a first-time dog.
As long as they like to run around.
As long as they like to be active, they're willing to do the training. I think that's a really cool dog for a first-time dog owner. I've had classes with 2 of them thus far. Both really cool dogs, both first-time dog owners, but both families were active and committed to the training piece as well.
And then to like backtrack, it's not that the dog wouldn't do the behavior. Maybe they would, but I would manage it. And then if it, for some reason or another, if whatever worked I did with the dog, probably not the resource guarding, but like I know, like we know how to manage it. A not first time dog owner knows how to manage it. And then you have to figure out how that dog's going to fit in your family.
Right.
If they're people aggressive or dog aggressive.
Or they resource guard things.
Yep.
Or if they just haven't,
I mean, so many trainers we know have fixed resource guarding and then they put the dog with an experienced dog owner.
Right.
That's usually something that works out well.
Right.
People aggression, that's really difficult.
Yeah, people aggression is scary.
Yeah, I rather deal with dog aggression than people aggression any day. Personally. That's just my own personal choice.
100%. All right, guys. I feel like we covered a bunch of different breeds, and I feel like we probably could go on and on forever with this conversation. So if it's cool, we might pick it up with a different list. I will have to be a little bit more inventive because I know that the dogs that I was pulling from are dogs that we see on a regular basis in the greater Boston area, I guess you could say. But I did want to make a general announcement to all those that follow and donate to the podcast via Patreon. I'm going to be donating the Patreon income, I guess, for the month of June to Food Link Massachusetts, which is a organization run out of Arlington, Mass. All right, this is taken right off the Food Link MA website, and you can find Food Link on Instagram and Facebook. They say, we see firsthand the disproportionate number of people of color who grapple with food insecurity, suffer at higher rates from chronic health conditions, and are dying at disproportionate rates due to systematic racism and oppression in our country. Please check out the Patreon page. It helps me to keep going. And if you like what you hear on the Fit Pet Boston Talks podcast, please like, subscribe, and share on your social media platforms and write up a little review. It really, really helps to keep it going. I have a super awesome interview scheduled for next week. So this podcast is going to be dropping on Tuesday. And then the following Tuesday, I'm going to drop another podcast. So I am on track to do a podcast a month with an interviewee that is outside of my immediate circle, which would not be Lori, and to also sprinkle in episodes with just the 2 of us, kind of just shooting it about random dog topics because we know that you guys absolutely love it because you tell me that you do. So we'll keep doing it as long as we have interesting stuff to talk about. And thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.